Good morning. My name is Kevin Wise, and I'm in the Department of Advertising over in the College of Media, and I'm going to talk about the relationship between movement and psychological responses to content. So we know lots of things about interactive media use. I try to focus on two. We know that interactive media use is becoming increasingly physical. So you're pointing, you're clicking, you're swiping, you're physically interacting with the devices that we're going to be talking about throughout the course of today. We also know that interactive media use is becoming increasingly mobile. So all these physical transactions that are taking place between ourselves and our devices, they're also taking place against the backdrop of physical activity. So people are doing this as they walk. We're on a college campus. You don't need me to tell you. Just look out on the quad as soon as the bell rings, and the first thing the students do is they go to their phone and they're accessing content as they're walking. So we know from a lot of research under the domains of embodied cognition and physical priming, we know that those physical cues do have some psychological outcome. They have some psychological effect on how people evaluate the content that they're accessing. And so in our lab, what we're looking at is how those physical cues that are engaged during media use, what psychological concepts might they access, and then in turn, how might the activation of those concepts influence what people perceive, how they evaluate the content that they're engaged with. So I'm going to briefly describe a study that we've recently done looking specifically at how movement influences the evaluation of content accessed on a mobile phone. So what we were thinking was that perhaps moving might activate some general approach mindset, and that approach mindset might carry over, resulting in more favorable evaluations of the content that people are viewing. So we did a very simple experiment. There's a lab, the Neurocognitive Kinesiology lab here on campus, run by Chuck Hillman. They were very kind, let us into their treadmill lab. And so we brought people into the lab and we had them essentially access pictures on their mobile devices while they were either walking or standing still. It was a very simple experiment, independent variable, moving versus standing still. So as they're either walking or standing still on this treadmill, they're being shown a series of pictures. And so we use some standardized pictures that are controlled for emotional characteristics. We also use some ambiguous Chinese ideographs that have been used in some previous research. And so if you can just imagine students either standing or walking on a treadmill, looking at their cell phone, a picture comes up, and then they rate that image according to its inherent emotional characteristics: pleasantness, unpleasantness, boring, exciting. And so what we found, and I stress that these are rather preliminary findings, but we've got some interesting pilot data that suggests that indeed movement does seem to influence the evaluation of these stimuli. So moving relative to standing still seems to result in more favorable evaluations of content. Again, preliminary research, kind of interesting. So what we're thinking about doing now, there's a whole host of other possible outcomes, other possible variables that we can look at. As we speak, we're actually getting ready to launch data collection looking at the influence on memory. There are lots of other content domains that we hope to apply this to. I'm in the field of media or communication, so certainly political communication, health communication. Here we're talking about learning today, so hopefully perhaps we can engage in a conversation in terms of how this idea might influence the way that we utilize mobile technology in terms of enhancing learning. So again, if any of you are interested in this and have ideas, we're at the very early stage. I'd be thrilled to collaborate, work together. I've got to thank my team of research assistants who are out there someplace. Thank you very much for your time.